10. Enraged elephants. In early 2016, a visitor at an elephant park on the island of Koh Samui in Thailand captured alarming footage of a handler repeatedly jabbing an elephant in the face with a bullhook. 24-year-old British tourist Kelly Ackerman later told the Daily Mail that she didn't like what she saw the trainer was doing, so she pulled out her phone and began recording his behavior. She said that the elephant didn't appear to be doing anything to warrant such horrific treatment, and that the abuse began seemingly out of nowhere. Ackerman was also put off by the conditions the park's animals were kept in, describing the enclosures as tiny and terrible. The disturbing footage was captured the week before another British tourist, 36-year-old Gareth Crowe, was killed by an angry elephant at the same park in what seemed like an unprovoked attack. Crowe and his teenage stepdaughter were riding the animal when it suddenly turned against them, throwing them off its back and onto the ground. It then proceeded to stomp on Crowe and gored him with its tusks before running off into the forest. After news of the tragedy surfaced, Ackerman shared her video and said that she thinks the attack might have stemmed from the way the park treats its elephants. After all, a creature can only take so much abuse before becoming prone to aggression and lashing out. Witnesses said that they saw a handler hitting the elephant with a stick shortly before the deadly ride, so Ackerman's explanation seems likely. 9. Bear versus hunter. A 62-year-old man was bear hunting in Russia's Irkutsk region recently when he shot a bear from a nearby platform. Thinking he'd subdued the animal, the hunter got down from the platform and approached the bear, only for the dying animal to attack him and crush his skull. The man was reported missing, and it wasn't until law enforcement thoroughly searched the forest that they found his bloody remains, which were covered in bite and claw wounds. They located the bear's corpse roughly 160 feet, 46 meters from the hunter's body. Most of Russia's 264 recorded bear attacks between 1991 and 2017 happened in Siberia and along the country's Pacific coast, according to Newsweek. Attacks are more common in areas with higher bear populations and where bears are less afraid of humans than normally. Typically, a bear will avoid contact with a human and will run away unless they feel provoked or threatened. In the case of the recently killed hunter, it's understandable why the creature became aggressive as soon as he was approached. 8. Stray dogs' supportive friends. One day in 2015, a driver in Chongqing, China found a stray dog napping in his parking space, so he got out of his car and cruelly kicked the animal out of the way, ignoring the age-old advice that it's best to let sleeping dogs lie. Later that day, the pup returned with some of his canine buddies and laid siege to the car, chewing up the frame and windshield wipers and causing other damage to its body. The driver was shocked the next day when a neighbor who witnessed the revenge explained that a pack of dogs was responsible. Sadly, China has very little protection in place in the way of anti-cruelty laws. A person can only get in trouble for harming or stealing a dog that belongs to someone, since the animal is then considered someone's property. But in a place where there are no legal consequences for hurting an animal with no owner, stray dogs are especially vulnerable. Looking at it from this angle, hopefully the dogs who damaged the car found somewhere else to go and managed not to cross paths with the vehicle's owner, who would be at liberty to punish them any way he saw fit without penalty. 7. Anna Calarusso. One day in 2019, 21-year-old Anna Calarusso of LaGrangeville, New York, set out to prove to her boyfriend that she could fit inside her suitcase. But her 7-year-old cat Sam was less than humored by the prank when Anna popped out of the luggage and instinctively took a few swipes at its owner, leaving her covered with bloody gashes and torn leggings. Even after the initial panic wore off, the shocked feline was still taken aback by the situation and continued walking around the room with utmost caution, hissing and clawing at Anna for another minute or so. As a kennel worker, Anna's experienced enough with animals to know that it was understandable for Sam to feel threatened. In a Twitter post, she said that he'd never attacked her like that before, and that the incident left her, her brother, and her mother all shaken. But Sam eventually calmed down and was over the whole ordeal by nighttime, when he crawled into Anna's bed and slept with her as if nothing had happened. 6. Tiger terrorizes poacher. Naturally, Conflicts between humans and wild animals are especially common in places where they live in close proximity to one another. This is definitely the case in many parts of India, where growing human populations are increasingly encroaching upon territory that elephants, tigers, and other creatures never had to share until somewhat recently. Poaching is also a major issue, and as one group of men learned in 2016, some animals don't forget who they are and will seek vengeance at the first opportunity. The men were carrying out an illegal liquor operation in the jungle in the state of Kerala when an angry male tiger viciously killed a group member nicknamed Baby, who also happened to be a notorious poacher in the area. Authorities soon learned that another one of the men named Thambi had recently killed the male tiger's partner, leaving them to conclude that the big cat had slaughtered Baby out of revenge. Just days after Thambi killed the tigress and divided her meat up among the group, Baby was alone in the jungle while the rest of the group went to retrieve some supplies. It was during this time that the male tiger attacked Baby, who was rushed to the hospital as soon as his friends found him, but died from his injuries. While it's not known for sure whether the incident was an act of vengeance, it sure seems that way, and there have been numerous other tiger attacks that seem to support the idea that these ferocious felines aren't quick to forget when they've been wronged. 5. Leopard lashes out at park ranger. When a female leopard began feeding on villagers' livestock in and around Kenya's Lake Nakuru National Park, they called on park rangers to remove the animal. The rangers put the feline in a cage and drove her elsewhere, but when they got to the area where they planned to rehome her, she refused to exit the cage. A ranger named Alexander Rono poked the big cat with a stick, hoping it would motivate her to run off into the wilderness. But the leopard stayed put, roaring at Rono in response to his poking, and even biting down on the stick at one point. After he finally convinced her to leave the cage, instead of fleeing into nature, she tried jumping into the front seat of the truck where Rono was sitting. He scrambled to roll up the vehicle's windows, but the leopard kept lunging at the truck and managed to get her body halfway in. She viciously tore the man's face with her 3-inch claws while trying to clamp her teeth down on his neck. At one point, Rono's hand was in her mouth. The feline had got nearly her entire body into the truck when Rono managed to kick her back out of the window, at which point she finally ran away. Rono was left severely injured. He nearly went blind and needed 21 stitches to close up his wounds. 4. Bear wrecks hunter's car. 3 men were hunting in the Siberian wilderness in 2014 when they were approached by a huge brown bear. One of the hunters responded by shooting the creature in the thigh, causing the animal to flee the scene. The group assumed that was the end of the situation, but they realized that they were woefully mistaken the next morning when the man who shot the bear found his car completely wrecked. The windshield was smashed, lights were broken, the body was scratched and dented, the rear bumper was ripped off, and the seats were torn according to the Siberian Times. Paw prints and claw marks found at the scene prove that the culprit was definitely a bear. In a true nod to the animal's feelings about what had happened, the other 2 hunters' cars were left untouched. At first, one of the men told his friend that he must have had something sweet inside his car that the bear wanted to get to. But the hunter said that he didn't have anything in the vehicle that would normally attract a bear. The trio theorized that the disgruntled beast must have used its sense of smell to specifically locate the vehicle belonging to the hunter he was mad at. When all was said and done, the car owner was left with a unique predicament, finding out if his auto insurance covered bear-related damage. 3. Tiger's vengeance. While hunting in Russia's Far East in 1997, Vladimir Markov shot and injured a Siberian tiger and stole part of its kill. Somewhere between 12 and 48 hours later, the tiger meticulously tracked down Markov's cabin, went inside, and completely destroyed everything in it that carried the man's scent. The big cat then sat near the front door and waited for Markov to return. When he walked through the front door, the tiger slashed him to death, dragged him off into the wilderness, and feasted on his corpse. The harrowing ordeal is recounted in John Valent's book, The Tiger, which explores the concept of wild animals holding grudges against humans. Speaking with National Public Radio, Valent pointed out how the tiger's actions were very thought out and deliberate. In other words, the big cat had a plan and a specific target, and the patience and skill to pull it off. One thing's for sure, Markov certainly underestimated the animal's intelligence and wasn't expecting to enter his cabin and come face to face with imminent death. This wasn't an impulsive response, Valen told NPR, adding that he thinks the tiger's decision to eat Markov was secondary to its main goal, which was simply to kill him. As Valen put it, he killed him because he had a bone to pick. Also known as Amur tigers, Siberian tigers can weigh over 500 pounds and measure as long as 10 feet from nose to tail. They're incredibly fast and can jump as high as they need to, in Valen's words. So if you're going to upset one, it's probably a good idea to make sure that it can't come after you later on, as Markov's failure to do so proved fatal. 2. Cautious crows. In 2011, Live Science reported on a group of Seattle-based researchers who learned the hard way that crows are incredibly smart animals who remember people's faces. They tracked the birds for 5 years, which involved capturing some of them and attaching identification bands to their legs. The team soon noticed that crows found ways to make it clear that certain researchers were unwelcome in their territory. They would swoop toward team members and make disapproving noises, leading the scientists to conclude that the birds held grudges against the people who'd captured and tagged them for tracking purposes. To test their theory, the team began wearing masks out into the forest when catching and tagging the birds. They found that the crows remembered specific masks even if they hadn't seen them in over a year. The birds even taught their offspring which faces to look out for, as the researchers learned when the baby birds began swooping toward them and making warning noises even though they'd never witnessed those team members handling crows firsthand. It's just one of many examples of our tendency to underestimate how intelligent some animals can be. 1. Elephant versus elderly woman. A village in India's Odisha state was left shaken recently when an elephant viciously attacked a 70-year-old elderly woman to death in the nearby jungle. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and died from her injuries. Her family took her body back to the village to prepare for her funeral. During the preparations, the elephant returned to the village and aggressively stomped on the woman's corpse. The animal then began calling on other members of its herd to join in and help attack the village. It destroyed the woman's house and killed several goats while the other elephants laid siege to nearby homes. Panicked villagers fled the scene. When they returned, they witnessed the angry elephant lifting the woman's corpse and destroying it in a brutal act of finality. Officials can only speculate on what caused the attack, but the seemingly unprovoked violence has left many wondering if the elephant was angry about some recent acts of poaching in the region and needed someone to take out its rage on. This certainly wouldn't be the first example of what seems like an elephant exacting justice for a long-held grudge against humans. It's been known to happen elsewhere in India and is common in villages in the East African country of Kenya. Some scientists believe that elephants can become conditioned to dislike humans in general, seeing us as competition and a threat. And as these incidents continue to happen with more alarming frequency, it's hard to argue against this theory. Thanks for watching. Would you rather come home to find that your angry cat had knocked everything off your counters and tables, including breakables, or find that a bear had come by and smashed your porch furniture after you yelled at it to get off your property? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.